My name is Bert Cook, and I'm the Executive Director of the Porte Economic Advancement Partnership. It's great to see so many people in attendance today and to see so many people interested in our legislative process. I'd first like to introduce Kathy Henrich, who is the chairwoman of our Legislative Affairs Committee. Kathy does a wonderful job leading this committee. We appreciate all her work and helping us really drive legislative affairs in our community. I'd also like to introduce our staff. I'm not sure who's in the room, but Mike Riley, who is our president of Existing Business Services. Lindsay Jonkine, who's our director of marketing and communications. And Eric Nelson, who's our workforce development coordinator. Next, I'd like to thank the LaPorte Community School Corporation for hosting us this morning. I think you can all agree this is a wonderful venue and we're very lucky to be able to use it. Thank you to Mark Francisconi, to Tim Hansen, and the entire team here at the Performing Arts Center, as well as Don Varda, and we appreciate his support in helping us tape the event today. So as you can see, we have 6 legislators with us today. From our state legislator, Representative Jim Pressel and Senator Mike Bohacek. From our county government, Commission President Sheila Matias, and Council President Randy Novak. And from our city government, Mayor Tom Dermody and Council President Tim Franke. So we have a packed agenda for this morning, so we'll get right to it. Let me tell you a little bit about how things are going to work. So each of our legislators will have 7 minutes to update the group on important legislation they're working on and initiatives that are important to them. After that, we will ask each legislator questions that have been submitted over the course of the last week. Hopefully, as you walked in this morning, you received a card. If you didn't, please put your hand up and we'll be happy to bring one around to you. If you have questions, please feel free to write those down. Hold them up in the air. Our staff will grab them for you. We have a ton of questions that have been submitted over the last week, so I think we'll have some great discussion. If you do fill out questions this morning, please direct them to the particular speaker you'd like to answer the question. At the conclusion of the event, if there's time, our speakers will be available in the lobby to answer specific questions, again, as time permits. So this morning, we'll start with State Senator Mike Bohacek. So Mike, 7 minutes, if you'd like to update us on your work, please.
Sure, thanks a lot. This is on, right? I guess I talk about that anyway. So we've got a lot going on. This is the second half of the session. So as you guys, some of you know, some of you don't, the Senate, here's all of our Senate bills in the first half. Then we change bills, and all the bills change houses. So now we're hearing House bills. There's a lot going on right now. Like I said, it's a short session, so we should be done in about 5 weeks, hopefully. And this is the time that we deal with a lot of policy issues. It's not a budget year. Our budget is done every other year. So this is typically what we call a policy session. We've got quite a few things moving in between some school bills. And some other issues with that. Something I've been working on, I've got 2 that are real important to me. One of them is Senate Bill 410. I don't know if any of you guys remember Judah Morgan. That was a 4-year-old boy that was murdered by his parents after being in DCS care and foster care with his aunt for 3 years. 90 days after he was returned to his family, he was unfortunately murdered by his dad. And we're providing, and the sad thing is aunt who was taking care of him had no legal standing in court to try to intervene to keep Judah from going back to his biological mom and dad. This bill would provide them the ability to intervene and actually become a party to the case. So they could actually have fought that return home. And these situations happen, infrequently, but certainly, 8 to 10 times a year. We tragically have a child that was in foster care by family that's returned home and is harmed. So we're trying to resolve that. Representative Pressel is carrying that bill for me in the House. It's already cleared the Senate, and I believe it's scheduled for a hearing in the House next week. We have another bill, 296. This has to do with pre-authorization for opioid addiction drugs. So the bill did receive a hearing in the Senate. It did not vote out, which means it's eligible to be amended into something. And what this basically does is when folks are ready to detox and quit opioid drugs, or even alcohol for that matter, you have a very narrow window when they make that decision. They've got to hit bottom. And when they hit bottom, then they're ready to give it a try. Well, some of the drugs that work the best have pre-authorization from Medicaid or Medicare, depends. And once, if you have a 4 or 5 day waiting period to get the drugs, odds are that window is closed and they're back to using again and they abandon the prescription. We saw some numbers and the abandonment rate is in the high 80% range. So we're really not doing what we should be doing to get these folks, cleaned up and part of society again. So that bill would remove the prior authorization from insurance companies on a select list of opioid treatment drugs. So there's a lot else going on. I mean, there's a lot of us here, so I will just kind of let that go with that. And thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Bohacek. Next up, State Representative Jim Pressel.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you. It's good to be back in Porte. Senator Bohacek and I have extremely busy schedules during session, and the common question I get when I walk into a room is, how are you doing? And I think I've answered everybody that asked me that this morning is I'm a little tired. So we get into town late last night and hit the ground running on Friday morning. So I appreciate you all taking the opportunity to come and learn a little bit about what's going on at the State House, maybe how the process works a little bit, and ask questions of things that are important to you. Thanks to LEAP, thanks to LaPorte High School for putting this on. So some of the big things that have moved out of the House, and the Senator talked about the bills changing houses. So we're in the second half. We have one more week of committee hearings, and then we'll go into conference committee. And the conference committee portion of the session is where the sausage really gets made. So there's a lot of things that happen in conference committee, bills that have died, kind of get amended into other things. I shouldn't say kind of, they do. That's where the majority of the magic happens, is right there in conference committee. So we should be done in about 3 weeks. I'm optimistic, it sounds like. The Senate's not moving as quickly as the House is. We started with around 900 bills. We're down to about 280. So far, no deaths in either chamber, but we won't know that until next Tuesday when we have a second reading deadline. So one of the big ones that we sent across from the House to the Senate that they haven't even brought up yet is 1002. 1002 is Indiana's largest tax cut in Indiana history. So it would take income tax down from 3.85% over a 5-year period to 3%. It removes the floor of 30% for business personal property tax. And that should concern everyone in here, and especially the locals, because that's direct revenue to them. So it's not fair, in my mind, that the state take that 30% reduction away without replacing that funding. 1002 has a mechanism to do that so that we can keep locals whole. So that's a brief look into 1002. 1004 is another very good piece of legislation. So I believe it was back in 2016 or 2015, level 6 felons were put in local jails. They weren't housed by DOC. And the big problem with that, two problems. So it created overcrowding locally. And it also created an issue for a lot of these level 6 felons need some mental health help. And our local jails don't have the capacity, the funding, or the ability to provide that service. So 1004 would actually take that burden off of locals, put them back under DOC care to where they could get the help that they need. My computer's running really slow. It must be tired too. Constitutional carry, 1077. Some people refer to it as constitutional carry. Some refer to it as a prohibited person. So what 1077 would do is allow anyone to be able to carry a firearm that's not a prohibited person. You wouldn't have to go through an application process. You would still go through a background check to purchase that firearm. And if you were still a felon or a domestic abuse, you're still not allowed to carry that. 21 other states have done this, and it's worked well for them. Out-of-state folks would still be required to have a permit. You would still be required to go through the process of a permit for a lifetime carry if you want to have reciprocity with any other state that we currently have reciprocity with them. With that, I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, State Representative Pressel. We'll move to our county government, and we'll start with County Council President Randy Novak.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? I didn't even So one of the big things that we're just finishing up, and a lot of things that I talk about, county government, the commissioners, kind of like the mayors of the county, we handle the finances. So a lot of things you may hear Sheila talk about also, but everything works hand in hand.
We're comrades.
We are. So the Michigan City Courthouse is going to be open to the public next Monday.
Ask and you shall receive, Randy.
Is going to be open this next Monday to the public for the first time in, I think, going on 2 years. It's about a $24 million project. We're going to be closing the 8th Street facility and moving those people in there. If you get a chance, stop by there. It's absolutely incredible. We did that, and I say, we structured the financing of that so that it had an 8-year call. We're hoping to be able to pay that off at the end of that 8 years with our emergency reserve funds, and start looking at the Porte courthouse and complex before that, because the Hyler building, which is across the street, was originally kind of, from what I hear, a temporary fix, and now it's kind of a permanent. So that building needs a lot of repairs. So we're working on that. The other thing is redevelopment commission that I'm the chairman of. We recently, the council appropriated $2 million for the 421 300 North expansion. So we're running sewer and water to the on the other side of 94. The first entrance to Michigan City off of 94 for expansion out in that area. And we also appropriated $1.5 million for the water and expansion of the sewer. The sewer is already on the other side, out on 35 Highway 20, as you head out towards South Bend. So those are two areas that the county's looking at getting the sewer and water out to, and it's a high priority because everybody knows about septic issues and things. So we're getting that out there so we can have some future expansion out in those areas. The other thing that we're working hard on with the commissioners, the way that ARP the way the ARP funds work is the commissioners have to propose a project, and then we have the option to fund it or do it. So that's how it has to come. So the commissioners have given us a list of items. The council is taking our time. We're going through it. The I-94 and the 35 and the 421 300 North was a project that was on there. There's the parks was on there. We funded some things for the park. We're talking with people like Paladin over in Michigan City that's looking at an expansion over there. We're looking at possibility of a respite house in Porte County because we don't have one. Even though nobody wants it in their backyard, it's something that is absolutely desperately needed in this area. And we're doing our best to try and team up. One of the things, and I got to talk with Tom Dermody later, but team up with Michigan City, the Healthcare Foundation, and other organizations to make our money go longer. We also did some rental assistance with something that Sheila brought to the table was rental assistance throughout the Porte County. So we're funding that and trying to help out with the townships and everything that's needed. So staying busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. County Commission President Sheila Matias.
Good morning, everyone. It's really good to be here. Do I get my mic back now? Thank you. It's really great to be here and to appreciate everyone coming out on a kind of a dull February morning where it's really icy out. Randy raised some good issues about the ARP money, and I'll spend a few minutes talking about the ARP funds. So the American Rescue Plan funds are bringing $21 million to the county, and then each of the municipalities has a pot of money, and I think it maybe is 11 million or something like that. As Randy said, the council is the fiduciary arm of the county government, so they actually will make the decision as to what gets funded and what doesn't. We are working our way through the list. He mentioned the playgrounds. We are really proud of the county park system, and investing in outside space has been really a COVID-friendly relief for a lot of our families. So we're reinvesting into playground equipment. We're acquiring a new park that will be a nature park, a walking trail. So the park system is really healthy, and I guess they're a symbol of what's really great about LaPorte County. We have a lot of great things happening, from broadband expansion to park expansion to economic development. Economic development is something that I'm really, that's kind of one of my favorite topics. And I'm really proud of the team that we've built. So oftentimes in government, things are very siloed. And what we have done, and I give Randy and his leadership at the council a lot of credit, the Redevelopment Commission, which is private and public folks who serve on that commission, and then our reorganized and redesigned Office of Community and Economic Development, which when I came on board, it was fractured, and we said, how about building a team approach? And we've done, I think, a pretty darn good job. We're seeing results, and results make you realize that you're onto something. So you may have seen that we had a delay in a ribbon cutting at Corsicana Mattress. That's in the old Scott Florsman building that was sitting vacant and decaying for over 20 years in Canola. And on March 16th, they will be having a ribbon cutting for 350 new jobs and 1.7 million investment. If you go past that facility now, you'll see lots of trailers, they're unloading materials. I already have heard from constituents who say, I've gotten a new job, I'm no longer having to go over to Lake County for my work. My family will have me on a regular schedule now. And so those are 350 jobs that weren't here before, and it's also bringing that property back into a healthy tax-based situation. So we're really proud of that as one example. We also, you may remember the Roundies out in Westville, the big facility there. That's now called the Midwest Trade Center, and that is full. We have, I think, 6 new companies there, a lot of investment, a lot of jobs, and so those are examples of how we have built an economic development team approach that really is being quite effective. So I'll move to broadband because most of you know that that's near and dear to my heart. So as a parent and as a former teacher, COVID has taught us something really important, that broadband isn't just for the 2 municipalities where you can get fast broadband in LaPorte City and in Michigan City, but in other areas of the county, it was not a good return on those internet service providers' investment to have to provide fiber for farms, for example, that are 1 and 2 and 3 miles apart. So broadband developed in our urban centers, and now we're trying to figure out a way to incentivize those companies to really make sure that every family in LaPorte County, every business in LaPorte County has the broadband access that they need. So we have applied, this is our 3rd application for a next level grant, and I'm looking to my colleagues at the State House to help us. We have a really good relationship with our state legislative team, and when we need help, we pick up the phone and we talk to them. So it's not about who's a Democrat and who's a Republican. We are from LaPorte County, and our goal is to bring the money back here. Getting those grants, we have 2 internet service providers who have applied for the grants with the help of our Office of Community and Economic Development team. We've done an engineering study that God love Maria Fruth. She helps so many of us through the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte. She helped fund that study, which actually puts a price tag on how much it will cost for each township in our county to have the broadband access that they need. It's broken down by townships. So we know it's a big lift. It's not going to happen, overnight, but we are making progress. For example, just this morning, I received an email from Comcast. We've been negotiating with Comcast, talking to their regional team, not just the local team, and they are investing $500,000 in Kingsbury Industrial Park to make sure that there's broadband fiber to each property, which will increase the ability for companies who need access to fast broadband to be able to go to KIP and get the service that they need. So every business, every family, small business, farms, agricultural operations, We all need broadband now. It's not just a nice thing to have, it's a necessity. It's almost like a utility. And so we want to make sure our county is pushing hard. You may recall that at the beginning of the year, LaPorte County was named a broadband ready community by the state of Indiana. That may sound like just a tag, but it's really significant because it shows the state, and we're trying to get the attention of the governor and the lieutenant governor, that LaPorte County is doing what it needs to do to develop a broadband access for every family, every child, every small business, every farm in our county. Broadband is on that ARP list that Randy mentioned, so I'll give a shameless plug for broadband. That we asked for $1 million to be earmarked for broadband, so that we as the county team, if there's a gap where a company is saying, I'll put in $800,000, but I need that little piece, we can take some of that ARP money, which is what it's for. It's for advancing economic development and community energy, and we will be able to use some of those small dollars to match and kind of fill in the gap. I think those are my main focus points that I wanted to speak to today. I imagine we'll have some interesting questions, so I look forward to speaking to you on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Matias. So we'll move to the city. Before we do, just remember, if you don't have a card, please put your hand up. We'll get you one. If you have questions, don't be shy. We will by Lindsay and Mike and Eric will be around to grab them, and we'd love to ask those questions for you. So next up, we have the City of LaPorte, and we'll start with City Council President Pro Tem Tim Franke.
Good morning, everybody. I was thinking about all of the things I could talk about, and there are a lot of things that we are up to, and I feel fortunate to be part of a great team and a great council. I see Councilwoman Ficus and Councilwoman West over there. It's really nice to have a cohesive group that works together to get things done. Some of the things we're working on right now are a couple of new commissions that I think will be great for the city. The first being a sustainability commission. There are 13 communities in Northwest Indiana that are part of a group that is working on a sustainability program that's helmed by NERC. And LaPorte has teamed up with Indiana's Environmental Institute, and our head person at the city is Sarah Nimitz. And she's been doing great work. But the goal of this group is to help reduce greenhouse gases and emissions and make a better environment for the future. So how do we do that? In 2017, there was a year-long study of greenhouse gases, establishing a baseline. And again, in 2020, as you may expect, in 2020, it was actually lower than 2017. Everybody was hunkered down at home, and all the emissions went down. So what we're going to do is use 2017 as the baseline for where we want the community to be in 2030, and the goal is to reduce emissions by 50%. And similarly, we're looking at city departments and reducing their emissions. And so for that, we're using the 2020 baseline, but I think it's going to be a great thing for the future. And there's also a lot of federal dollars that are funding this. The second commission that is coming is Affordable Housing Commission. We've, since the start, especially the mayor has had a big focus on having affordable housing that is livable. 701 Maple, for example, I saw Tommy here is doing a great job renovating that, but that property was in disarray, full of bed bugs, trash, you name it, and it was sad to see. And there's examples all over the city of where better housing is coming, and there are some things in the pipeline that I'm excited about, with a focus on Jefferson Ave, Maple Ave, Rose Street, that area. This commission will implement some ideas to help improve housing and affordable housing at that. Aside from the commissions, this year you'll see more Clear Lake improvements. Paving of Truesdale is going to happen this summer, which will be great. And then the pathway along the shores of Clear Lake is going to expand around the entire lake and connect to the Chessie Trail. The city has a Heart of LaPorte plan, and that trail is going to expand in length over the years to come. but this is a great addition that's going to help allow that. We've also had a good focus on community events, and last year we saw the creation of the Stitch come to life, and there were a lot of great events there. The first ever Lake Fest, which the mayor, well, it's his idea, but his promise this year will be even bigger, and I know that Pearl Jam may or may not be coming. Aside from that, the Civic has been holding way more events and a lot of concerts, and we're just trying to bring the community together. And I don't think well, I'm sure I'll hear it, but if anybody ever says there's nothing to do in LaPorte, they're wrong. There's plenty going on. With the mention of the ARPA funds, the federal COVID money, we've had to put our heads together and figure out how to best use that. We are focusing on improvements to the Civic. It's finally going to have air conditioning, which has been needed forever. And it'll get a new roof. We've put a lot of money into the park department. And our goal with that money has been, how do we make a lasting impact that'll have the most good for everybody? And I think that we're doing well with that money. And I hope you'd agree. And then finally, it seemed relevant to now. We have an issue with snow routes in the city, and with some of the streets, it's sometimes impossible for plows to get down. So we're reviewing the emergency snow plan and looking at possibly implementing something similar to New Carlisle or Chicago, where you have to park on one side of the street for one day of the week and vice versa. That way the plows can get down. They don't have to take off anyone's mirror, and we'll have clean roads. And then the other impact this has, we're putting $50 million into infrastructure right now with wastewater and water. This will allow for better street cleaning, which in turn will help keep debris from flowing into our wastewater, and will help make that system last over time. But that wraps up my side.
Thank you, Councilman Franke. And last but not least, Mayor Dermody.
Well, good morning, everybody, and I should have just slid Tim a couple more of my talking points so he could have given my whole speech here today. But, and by the way, I'm sure it was just accidental that Tim did not mention new seating at the Civic Auditorium as well.
I'm against that. It's nostalgia. You go in there, that's the first thing you see, and it takes you back. It's all been tripping degrees.
And then you can't walk for 2 weeks afterwards. But we'll have, that's why we have a council, that's why we have a mayor. And I am excited to be here. It's always fun. I enjoy getting in front of people, back and forth, having conversation, but you never know what you're going to get, frustrations and so forth, so you're always a little nervous. But now that our assessor, Mike Schultz, is here, I know all the heat and complaints usually go to him. So I'm glad to see he'll be taking that on for us. Our number one goal is 30 by 30. We believe that we can have 30,000 people here in the city of LaPorte by the year 2030. That does not happen without the fantastic team that we have here. Tim mentioned Councilwoman West, Councilwoman Ficus, and Tim himself, and then our department heads, and they're spread out here today. I'm just so thankful to be a part of a team that just is focused on the big picture and is getting things done every single day, from public safety to code enforcement to our park department throughout. And thank you to all of you for your efforts. As Tim shared with you, housing in 2022 of all types. We do need affordable housing, but we do need high-end housing. We need workforce housing, and that has to be a priority. That has to be a focus. You've heard about 701 Maple. They have their open house tomorrow. People will be hopefully moving in March, but that doesn't end. We have Timma Bakery, where we see partnering with a nonprofit organization to build homes affordably for those individuals that want to start a family, have home ownership in their future. And then we go to the higher end, the banks that you've seen construction continuing to move forward, as well as Beechwood Lakes on the north side of Beechwood Golf Course. So things are happening and it's far from being done. And we're going to continue to push and support housing because, again, we've said since day one we're going to compete with the best and hold high standards. So when Valparaiso, Michigan City, across northern Indiana, we need to compete for those individuals that are going to say, you know what, based on our lakes, based on our parks, and the things to do here, we're going to move to LaPorte. Number two, which I think is an important part of our future and something that's talked about year after year for many years, but that's a corridor. And our north-south economic corridor, which actually was started by the county years ago, we've just been a great proponent of it and recognize what the corridor does to remove truck traffic off our downtown and make the city of LaPorte a better place, which in turn makes our county a better place because we are part of the county. And I think it's fair for everybody to understand where the city of LaPorte's coming from. You should not be misinformed. We are supportive of a corridor. And we get elected officials, they go to one meeting, depending on who they're talking to, yeah, I support it. Then I go to the next meeting, no, I don't support it. I support the corridor. And we do not want to wait 10 years from now where we're sitting at a light on Lincoln Way, waiting 3 to 4 cycles. And if you read the data, it's coming where you sit 3 to 4 cycles at a light. Now is the best time to discuss a corridor for new money federally, because whether you don't like what the federal government is doing with infrastructure money, the city of LaPorte deserves to compete for that. We can all have our personal feelings about debt and all of the concerns about who's doing what, but as mayor, we as the city of LaPorte deserve and expect to compete with the new infrastructure money, which could bring a corridor, which is a change to our community for the years to come. Next, you've heard me discuss the LIT, public safety local income tax. We've seen, and this isn't about the city of LaPorte, we've seen with our sheriff here, John Boyd, we've seen EMS, and you see EMS saying, we can't stay up with the calls for service. 900 more calls this year for service than compared to last year. We had a death at an accident just off Lincoln Way in December. It took an ambulance to come from Michigan City to deal with that accident. We have our police and fire, where we're down roughly 10 officers because they have options. And sometimes we work with only 4 officers on a shift. And think about when you get 4 calls, you're not allowing any officer to have backup. Our fire department are dealing with medic calls over 25,000, I think the number is per year, or 25, what is it? 2,500, 2,500 calls. It's difficult. And when we have high-risk warrants in our community and countywide, I know we have over 900, and I know the chief gets upset at this, but when we're providing equipment that are basically bicycle helmets for our officers to be safe, that's unacceptable. Michigan City has just been considered one of the most dangerous communities in our county, in our state. Deon Campbell, the police chief, has said, look, it's coming this way. We need to do something. From every perspective, we need to show our public safety that we're committed to them, and most importantly, our residents, that they know if they move to LaPorte County, they're going to be safe. Because right now, our officers, and they've done this, have gone to South Bend, for example, for $20,000 more in salary tomorrow. They can go elsewhere. It's a new day. And public safety is a cornerstone of my administration, of our community, and we need, and I appreciate Randy Novak's help to do what 71 of 92 counties have done in LaPorte County when Governor Daniels said, this is your option for public safety, and to address it and address it now, and don't kick it down the can any further. So we're excited to continue to move that forward. As well, 39 North, Conservancy District. Obviously, you've heard that the city of LaPorte, we've notified 39 North that we will not continue to supply water to the district, which includes the northern part of the industrial park, Briarleaf, and that contract will come up in about another 2 to 3 years. We believe the infrastructure there was not done correctly. It was done on the cheap, I guess, for lack of a better term. And we believe we have an option for the city of LaPorte. It's going to take some funding from the county as a part of ARP funds. We're willing to invest, but we cannot invest in non-residents. And so one of the thoughts to keep costs down in water and sewer, to keep property tax caps down, is you must annex. If you want us to fix your problem on 39 North, you need to annex in the city. And I think the county would be supportive because they don't lose anything. And then we're going to be able, for the future, to provide proper infrastructure this time and enough water so that if a fire does happen, they don't have to wonder, is there enough pressure to put out that fire and save a family versus putting them in a disarray and in concern, because right now, if you talk to our fire chief, Andy Snyder, there are concerns that are happening every day on 39 North. So with that, those are the main points that we're focused on. Again, the public safety lit is most important. And I just want to remind everybody, LaPorte County, the school systems, townships, the city of LaPorte, based on the property tax caps that I voted for in the legislature, and that Hoosiers across the state of Indiana voted at a 70% hit to support. We give $32 million back out of our budgets to homeowners for relief. So for example, the city of LaPorte gives 25% of our budget back to homeowners that we don't spend, yet our services are still required to be provided at a high level. And I don't know a lot of businesses that lose 25% and have to maintain the costs to maintain the services. And we've done a lot of things to reduce and to be as efficient as possible. But the public safety lit will keep our community safe for many years to come. So look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all our speakers. We will move to the question and answers section of this event. Thank you for those that have submitted questions. Over the last week, we have asked for questions from the community, and we've received a lot. I always learn a lot about what is interesting to people as we go through this process. So to the panelists, we have a lot of questions to get through. I'll try and address them to you. If you could maybe make your answers as succinct as possible, a minute or so would be great so we can get through as much as possible. And we'll start with one that I just became aware of. I think it's a very interesting question. So this is to Mayor Dermody and Councilman Franke. Please compare and contrast the structural integrity of the seating at the Civic Auditorium. just kidding.
Well, they're clearly very sturdy. They've been there for over 100 years. I don't see any issue with them. In fact, I think that they help make the Civic what it is.
Thank you. So, State Representative Pressel, we'll start with you. What is your position on House Bill 1077, the conceal and carry permit, and why?
So 1077, I touched on a little bit earlier. That's the constitutional carry or the prohibited persons bill. So I did vote in favor of that. I voted in favor of it last year, and the 2 years prior to that, I voted against it. So we continue to see it. I think what's important for me on that is, we've had an opportunity to look and see what has taken place or not taken place in 21 other states. It does not allow anyone that would be a prohibited person, if you're a felon, if you're involved in domestic violence, you're still not allowed to carry that, whether you have a permit or not, right? So does the permit actually, are the bad guys getting permits? And I would say no. So bad guys are always going to carry a firearm if they want to. And when I talk to our sheriff, who's going to disagree with me on this, and we've had a lot of conversations, but when I talk to some of the guys that are actually in the field, and they tell me their training takes them to a place of, we approach every stopped. We approach every domestic violence call that we get is somebody is going to try and take me out with a firearm or with a weapon of sorts. So I don't believe that not requiring that license has really any impact on it. So that's why I'm supporting it this year.
Thank you. Mayor Dermody, a couple questions on the same topic, so I'm going to combine a few here. Please explain your definition of affordable housing, some call it workforce housing, in the city of LaPorte, and what projects are in the works to address this need.
Well, I think you've heard about the projects, and those are going to continue to go. Affordable housing is an interesting definition because everybody, no matter what we have, it's never low enough. But what we see is, if we use on a national average, 30%, you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your wage on housing, whether you're purchasing a house, whether you're renting. And I compare it, especially at 701 Maple, some people have said, hey, a studio at $595 is unaffordable. And to me, $400 when people were spending in that building where they had violence, drug trafficking, bed bugs, and the type of environment that those individuals had to live in was certainly not affordable and not respectful. So I believe we have to continue to work, and right now with wages where they are, for individuals that can go and find a job at 17, 18, I just heard in Elkhart they're moving up to $25 an hour in the RV manufactured housing industry. I think $595, $650, $700 in that range is affordable. And also individuals are looking at finding roommates, sharing in these apartments, so that $800 a month, if it gets to $800 to $900, then you're paying $450 for a 1 to 2 bedroom and doing the things necessary. But right now, we're trying to keep it as affordable. The city should not be controlling rent, but providing opportunities for developers like Tommy Berry to come into LaPorte and provide quality housing in our community.
Thank you, Mayor. So to our state legislators, we got a number of questions about the same topic, and I'll just summarize here. Explain your perspective on why you support or oppose the education bill, House Bill 1134. And Mike, maybe we'll start with you on this one.
1134 just came to the Senate. It was a companion bill, Senate Bill 167, that received a hearing and was not voted. 1134 does a lot of things. I think, at least in my opinion, it puts a lot of onerous requirements on teachers and puts some additional legal burdens on them as well. There's some good parts to the bill, but for me, that bill is going to need a lot of work. I don't think that a teacher should have to submit their daily lesson plans on a website so parents can review them. Parents can already view the curriculum. I just don't think very many parents do that. I know there's some issues with some hot button topics. We hear critical race theory gets tossed around a bit. I think there's some concerns. I don't think they're based in fact, but there's some folks that are concerned that teachers are injecting their own opinions when instructing our children. And I don't see that as an issue, and if it is, it's a one-off issue that can be handled with the superintendents or the principals directly. I don't think we need legislation for it. But, there's going to be some pieces to it. It's getting a hearing next week, so I'll be kind of curious to see what comes out of it and what gets amended in or out of it. So it's one of those things that I think Representative Pressel plays anything too, is that bills change as it goes through the process. So, to say that, yes, I support it 100% now, it doesn't mean that I will support it later on. And this is one of those bills that's going to need some work and there's going to be some changes. So I'm looking forward to see what it looks like. But as of right now, I cannot support the bill.
Thank you. State Representative Pressel.
So 1134 is one of probably, I think there were maybe 10 versions of CRT and SEL filed in the House, and I don't know how many were filed in the Senate. So some were pretty broad, a lot broader than what 1134 was, even though it is very broad. And some as simple as you can't teach CRT in Indiana schools, period. 1134 got out of committee with an amendment, still wasn't in a good spot. It needed to be narrowed down. So there was a huge second reading amendment that went in that I had some direct input into it, and taken away one of Senator Bohacek's concerns is already out of the bill. So it's not, I couldn't tell you in my life as a legislator or a home builder what I'm gonna do in the next 15 or 20 minutes other than be here until 9:30. Is it fair to an educator to have to post all that 5 days in advance, 10 days in advance? And it's not. So that part has been totally removed from the bill. That's gone, and that was important to me to get rid of that. The opt-in, opt-out part for parents to take a look at would have been the daily lesson and say, I don't want Susie doing this. Well, we get 27 different Susies, and the first part of the bill would require the teacher to actually provide 27 different lesson plans. And that's not fair, it's not possible. So with the provisions that I was able to get in on the second reading amendment, part of the process that I'm involved in is you kind of own that. So I think by narrowing it and putting it into a better position, even though I don't agree with a lot of the policy that is in part of it, puts it in a better spot to continue the process and let the second chamber take a look at it, amend it, and have those conversations.
Thank you. We'll move over to our county government. The question is, the city of LaPorte has proposed annexation of 39 North to allow for continued service of water in this area after the Conservancy District's contract ends. Do you support this plan, and please explain your reasoning? And we'll start with Commissioner Matias.
So, fire safety is the key issue here. When you look at the data on that project, it's quite concerning. I use the word frightening, but I don't want to frighten anyone. I would say it's extremely concerning. So as a team between the city of LaPorte and the county, we are trying to come up with a plan that we can support. I would pass to Randy Novak, who was a fire chief, so that he can talk the actual details of this in regards to fire suppression. We cannot have development unless we can assure that public and the citizens and the residents are confident that they have safety and fire safety and a good water supply is critical. So, Randy, I'll pass to you.
So I would absolutely support it as a, I guess one of the options, because right now, as Mayor Tom said, 39 North has the option. So just so everybody knows, the county did not put the water lines in. The county did not put the sewer lines in. That was all 39 North. So 39 North did it. They floated bonds. From what I can see from the plans, as the mayor stated, it was not built as designed. It's undersized. They teed off of it then and went down Johnson Road. And the reason it came to light with me is because, and I'll try and keep this short because I already answered the question, is being the chairman of the Fire Chiefs Association, there was one of the fire trucks was filling up a truck over there, and they turned the fire hydrant on to fill the truck, and one of the previous water superintendents came over there just screaming and yelling at him. They're like, "What are you doing? You're going to shut the water off there." It's like, whoa, what? It's a fire hydrant. I mean, we open them all the time. So that's when it first came to light. So since then, I think 2 years later, been meeting with Tom a lot at 39 North. It has to be fixed. So 39 North has an option. They can fix it. This is my thing. Get out of the way. And if the option is the city needs to annex that, then that's what it needs to be, because the city's going to it's going to take a huge chunk of money to fix that and do it properly for the expansion outside there. So.
Thank you. Councilman Franke. The city of LaPorte has enacted a riverfront liquor license district and granted licenses accordingly. Do you feel this program has been successful, and why?
I do feel it's been successful. I know there are 3 restaurants that either are in the process or will be in the process of taking advantage of it, and those are all new restaurants. I know there's also existing ones that are looking into adding it to their product line, but I met with one specifically, and they told me they looked at, I think, 5 different cities in Northwest Indiana, and this put them over the edge for LaPorte, but they were already leaning towards LaPorte just because they think that it's the best place to be, and I can't disagree. But it's going to bring life to our downtown, and it's going to provide better options for everybody when they want a nice place to eat.
Thank you. This question is for Commissioner Matias and Mayor Dermody. LaPorte County and the City of LaPorte have been working on the north-south corridor for over 2 years with numerous public and private meetings. Clearly state whether you are supportive of this or not at this time. And obviously, Mayor, you touched on this in your opening comments, but maybe you can start. Fairly simple question: are you supportive or not of the north-south corridor?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Matias.
So my answer is no. And while I respect Tom's opinion, and I believe that his reasoning is of interest, to me, the price for this project is so enormous that the return is not there. And unless someone can convince me that there is no other option, there is no other way that we can solve this problem, I cannot support this. I've talked to so many of the homeowners who have family homesteads that would be lost. To circumvent the traffic reminds me of how in the 70s and 80s we closed down a lot of main streets all across America to try to build out into the mall areas, and those areas of the downtowns became ghost towns. I'm concerned. I'm not certain that we have thought this through completely, and so at this time I would say my support is not there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, and I do appreciate Commissioner Matias and I work well together, even if we have different sides of that. But one thing I think that has come from this, at one time, I think before the city were completely engaged, it was a $200 million project. Now we're talking about a $100 million project. So you take that off. Nick Minnick, our city engineer, has been going out to county homeowners and adjusting, listening to those ones that have concerns and recognize that this is not going through homes. Because as we've talked about, as we've shared and asked the question consistently, we invite homeowners in the county, come into the city, look at the map. This is not, as I've said, our grandfather's bypass. This is a much thinner, very specific corridor. And we're still waiting for someone to come in and say what home is being taken out by the corridor, because we don't have one based on the upgrades and the improvements after speaking to people in the county, which really isn't our job, but we're a lead proponent of this. And so we're excited about where this can look, and hopefully everybody will get on board.
Thank you both. So next question is for our state legislators. I'll start with you, Representative Pressel. Thank you. This question was asked numerous times this morning. I'm paraphrasing a few different pieces together here. But as an elected official at the state level, when you see the disruptive fighting going on within our highest levels of county government, does this cause you to more strongly consider the Kernan Shepherd report and a single executive county leadership model? State Representative Pressel, I'll start with you, I guess.
Yeah, so I already like the Kernan Shepherd report. We have one mayor, and I've heard Mayor Dermody say that a few times, and it's a great point. So why do we have 3 county executives? The township government piece in the Kernan Shepherd report, I've been on the record quite a few times. There needs to be township consolidation. Government in those areas should be put better together. I think they serve the people better. But the local county council commission, I'm going to go way out on a limb here because I hear it in Indianapolis. I hear it when I travel into other counties and people approach me and go, is this really going on? And I'm like, yeah, you can watch it. It's all videotaped. It's on Elko TV. I think there's a better way to get to where they want to go. And I would encourage all of them to try and figure out how to work together. And then I'd propose this question. and I guess I'm gonna be on the record forever saying it, is what have you done since you got elected other than fight? So I'll leave it with that.
State Senator Mike Bohacek.
So I used to be a county commissioner for a couple of terms, and having more faces of government for taxpayers is not a bad thing. The commissioners run at large, so they're accountable to all the voters, but they must live in a district. So Commissioner Matias actually has my old district seat. So you're representing your district, you have to live there, you're part of the community. I was a commissioner when Kern and Shepherd came out. And what that basically said is you would get rid of 3 commissioners, you'd have 1 single county executive. It would consolidate a lot of the township government. And there was some cost savings involved in it. I don't know. I mean, the way the system's been working, it seems to work okay. I am disheartened when I hear a lot of the infighting that's happening in county government. It is, for lack of a better term, it's embarrassing. I wish this would end and get back to the business of governing and running the county, but people are elected officials, they have their own opinions, and they can do what they wish with that bully pulpit that is their office. But once again, it'd be more important to me that we just focus on good governance and moving things forward.
Thank you. State Representative Pressel, do you have something you want to add?
Yes, I want to add to that, I want to make sure that did not come across as Pressel just called them all out, because he didn't. It's a collective thing, so that was not a personal jab on anybody. I'd just like to see them get along and do things for the county, for their constituents. I think that they try and make that motion, but there is so much that could really be handled amongst themselves behind the scenes that we should be focused on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Councilman Franke, a major theme in our community is the lack of things to do for youth in particular, specifically the teenage demographic. What is being done to address this in LaPorte?
Thanks, Bert. Back to not wanting to hear there's nothing to do in LaPorte. There are plenty of things, including for children. This month, you saw an addition of an ice rink downtown, and I know that I won't get into details on when the hospital comes down, what happens there, but there probably will be some features there that will give kids things